The king of Michigan game birds, is it the ringneck pheasant or is it the ruffed grouse? A lot of people feel that waterfowl are the hottest thing going and the most beautiful birds in the world. But all of our hunters in Michigan, small game hunters, are going to be in for a real treat at our Small Game Hunters Workshop September 11th, 9 days from now, and we have our special show this evening. We're going to talk about our Small Game Hunters Workshop with Glenn Dutter and a lot of other people, so stay tuned. It's Thursday night and time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, it's history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fishery.
Identifying small game is most important when it comes to ducks, right, Glenn?
Because of the variety of species in the point system and the different numbers that you can take of each species.
And this is no problem.
Oh, the bufflehead is easy. Small size, black, white, black, white, black, white.
Okay.
But that's not so.
We'll take another species here that we'll be talking about in our Small Game Hunters
I think
Workshop.
the male is always recognizable because of his bald pate, the widgeon or bald pate. But look at this young female. In flight, that'd be kind of hard to recognize, and that's one of the things we'll be talking about.
Okay, that's in our waterfowl section of the workshop. Of course, we have another series of seminars, discussions on this bird, a regal bird, the ruffed grouse, very common in Michigan and increasing in popularity among small game hunters.
Yes, and probably becoming more numerous in many of our wooded areas because of better management.
Let's hear a Glenn Dutter tip here. I know one's coming up.
Well, I think hunters should be able to tell the sex of their birds, and with grouse, it's not as easy as, say, with pheasants. This black band, if it's solid, it definitely tells you it's a male. But if it's broken, well, it could be a male or it could be a female.
Yeah,
so
you can see that right there. These two feathers are a little bit mottled, not like the clear black band across here. What does that mean? Is this a male or female?
Well, I would guess it's probably a male, but to be sure, I'd have to measure the length of those two tail feathers. And if they're long, over 7 centimeters, it's a male. If they're less than that, it's a female.
That's just a little touch of what you're going to get in the Small Game Hunters Workshop. But right now, Glenn, let's go to Charlie Gunter, the DNR Wildlife Chief, who has a few words about the DNR's involvement here in the workshop.
Well, Fred, you know, when you first proposed the idea of a Small Game Hunters Workshop, we in the Wildlife Division jumped at the opportunity to participate. Because if there's one thing I think we should do more of, that's looking through the eyes of a hunter. And this gives us an opportunity to meet with 1,500 hunters if we reach that many, and I think we will on a personal basis. We've made a heavy commitment of manpower to that day. We're going to have several of our people there. We're going to talk specifically about small game conditions, some plans that we have for the future, and I couldn't be happy enough if it turns out the way we have it planned.
Of course, Glenn, you're holding what used to be the king of game birds, and many people still hope will have a comeback, the ringneck pheasant, subject of several of our seminars at the workshop. But we have a lot of people involved in this, a lot of aspects from shooting and survival and so on, including bird dogs, one of the most interesting things. So let's go to a vet clinic right now with Will Schultz and talk about a rather interesting species. A lot of hunters use dogs. A lot of small game hunters use dogs in their hunting. And of course, everybody has a favorite breed. You know what this one is? Cute looking pup. Well, Will Schultz, you're a veterinarian. You're going to be our dog specialist at the Small Game Hunters Workshop. What kind of dog is this?
This is a German wire hair pointer.
We're called a draught hair.
Right.
In the German language. Pretty popular breed?
No, there are only a few in this area. They're a very, very good upland bird dog. And they do get in the water pretty well, but not as well as some of the other breeds.
Well, some people would say they're an all-around dog, but
That's right.
People who really specialize in their hunting, like grouse hunters, would tend to use English setters, springers a little bit now?
Yep, a lot more springers getting into the bird hunting.
What types of problems do grouse hunters have with their dogs?
Well, grouse hunters go into a lot of dry cover because they're hunting late fall and they're hunting a lot of plowed down farm, not plowed down, but cut wheat fields and things. And as they get further north, they're into the woods, so they get sticks in the pads or they get cut wheat stalks right into the feet and the webs because they have really delicate feet in that dog. And so you have to watch them for any cuts, wounds, any kind of abrasions to the feet.
Of course, at our workshop, you'll be telling us things to look for and how to do it.
That's right, and how to treat them.
What about rabbit hunters who use beagles?
Beagles we watch a lot for corneal problems on their eyes because beagles will follow that bunny anywhere. And as they go through the briars, they get scratches on their face. And once in a while in the fall and winter during rabbit season, we'll get beagles in with scratched corneas. And that can be a very serious problem. they can lose vision in their eye very quickly with it. So if they have problems, they have to be seen right away.
And what about retrievers, people who hunt ducks?
Retrievers, we watch for water because they're usually out, they're out wet, they're out all day long. The dog usually helps put in the decoys. And they get their ears wet a lot because they don't mind going underwater. So we watch them for a lot of ear flap infections or wet ear problems. And those are usually amenable to treatment if we see them right away. And if they're going to hunt the rest of the year and you want a dog that's going to be able to sit without digging at his ears all day long, you have to take pretty good care of those.
Well, which is better, to have a dog hunting in Michigan with long hair or short hair?
I always prefer the short hair. It depends, again. If you're going to hunt anywhere where there's a lot of cocklebur, and anytime a pheasant hunter goes out or a rabbit hunter, he knows where the burrs are, either steers clear of them or goes through them. But that's up to the hunter. If it's a long-haired dog, like Emmy with a wiry hair, this hair doesn't tend to pick up burrs as much. If it's a setter, they tend to pick up burrs, so we'll put them on a coat oil, and a lot of pet shops carry those. And you mix it with water and spray it on them.
Spray it on the...
Right.
Some
and
hunters
the
use
burrs
Vaseline.
comb out. Right. Vaseline works, but Vaseline's really hard to get out of the dog. And then the dog's Vaselined up for the rest of the season, just about.
What about keeping a dog indoors? Is it okay to keep a hunting dog indoors with the family, or should you just put it outside?
If it's in the late winter and you're going to do a lot of rabbit hunting, that's rough on them to be in and out all day long, or out for several hours and then back in. But in a regular bird dog, we have a lot of people that come in that say the dog can't do it. We have a lot of bird dogs that sleep on the bed every night with the owners.
Doesn't seem to hurt them, huh?
No, it doesn't bother them.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, we're going to have you at the workshop, along with Steve Smith, who's the editor of Gun Dog Magazine. Both of you will be able to answer a lot of questions.
Good.
We're going to have retrievers, setters, hounds, some blue ticks, beagles,
Great.
all kinds of dogs at the clinic for people to see, demonstrations. You can have Emmy there?
Yes, Emmy's going to come along for the ride.
Well, come to the Small Game Hunters
Yes,
Workshop
Emmy.
and meet Emmy, along with all the other dog celebrities. German wire-haired pointer. Hunting dogs really add to the enjoyment of small game hunting, but there's another facet of hunting that can make you feel a lot better outdoors, and that's safe gun handling. But hunting accidents aren't nearly the problem people think they are. In fact, insurance company statistics show that about 1 million high school kids play football, and each year an average of 116 high school players will die due to injuries sustained playing high school football. Compare this to 1 million small game hunters in Michigan in 1950. There were 7 deaths and 135 injuries. By 1978, hunter numbers increased to 1.5 million, but there were only 51 injuries and 3 accidental deaths. DNR hunter education specialist Jim Dabb will talk safety at the Small Game Hunters Workshop. Okay, Jim, for 1981, how many small game accidents and fatalities are we talking about?
We had 2 fatal accidents and 68 that there were injuries involved.
Well, that's sure a lot better than it used to be.
Down considerably from years ago when it had run better than 200.
Okay, what about these 2 fatalities?
One involved careless handling of a firearm, and the other involved a grouse hunter that was shot and killed by his partner in some heavy cover. The partner was swinging on a bird and shot and killed his partner.
Well, unfortunately, that's
Unfortunately.
a tragic thing to have happen. Is that the typical breakdown? Does that reflect the breakdown of the accidents?
Pretty close. Pretty close. The statistics for last year, we had 3 injuries where the victim moved into line of fire, 8 accidents, including the fatality and the victim covered by the shooter swinging on game. Victims out of sight of shooter. There were 22 accidents there last year. Mistaken for game, we had 3. Ricochet, there was 6. Shooter stumbled and fell, 3. All 3 of those were self-inflicted. Trigger caught on brush or other object, 4 of them, all self-inflicted. 2 where the weapon fell from an insecure rest, leaning up against a tree. 1 of those was self-inflicted. Horseplay with a loaded firearm. 1, self-inflicted. Crossing a fence or other obstacle. 1. Unloading, only 1. Our message has gotten across.
Okay.
Careless handling, we had 8 total, including 1 fatality. Defective firearms, there were 4. Weapon rupture, there were 2. And miscellaneous or unknown, there were 2, for a total of 70, with 2 fatals.
Now, each type of small game hunting, Jim, it seems to have different problems. You're going to be talking at the workshop to our pheasant hunters about specific
Our
problems
pheasant
with
hunters,
pheasant.
our grouse hunters, our squirrel hunters, and our rabbit hunters, primarily.
Each one of them to tell where the problem areas occur in that type of hunting.
That's correct. Most of them actually are just about identical. They heavy cover, the heavy foliage, the leaf cover, the tall grasses, tall working into the corn, And that's where Hunter Orange is going to work.
Okay, well, you'll explain the hows and whys, and I think a lot of us hunters feel that it's really important, not just for our own safety and to eliminate these fatalities and accidents, but for our image.
Our image has come a long ways in the last 15 years or so, Fred.
How is the legislature upset about the accidents? Are they responding to the public saying, hey, hunting is dangerous?
They were upset, as the public was, back in the late 60s. And we started with the mandatory hunter education program for 12 through 16-year-olds in 1971. And that was because of the concerns of the public and the legislature. And in 1977, the Hunter Orange Law. The legislature has been very responsive.
Well, we've been cleaning up our act.
That's
we really
right.
have, to a very admirable degree. Well, you're going to be at the workshop. We're
I will
looking
be
forward
there.
to hearing your input in the
I will be
various
there.
sessions. Right now, let's go over to Bob Garner, works with the legislature, and he can tell us maybe a little different perspective on hunters.
Well, if there's one message I want to get across to sportsmen, is that they've got to become involved. There are very few members of the legislature that hunt and fish. At this time, probably only 5 members that hunt for deer, and fewer than that hunt for small game. And so therefore, these guys, these 140 other legislators that are writing the laws that affect sportsmen, sometimes know very little about hunting or fishing or about the critters themselves or firearms and firearm safety. And so it's important that a dialogue be established between constituents, and we're all constituents, and the particular legislators.
Do you feel that we 2.5 million hunters and fishermen in Michigan are inadequately represented, or are we taken care of?
Well, we don't do enough individually. There are good groups around that help causes, but when it really comes down to bottom line, if you don't get involved personally and write a 1 or 2 sentence letter describing how you feel about a certain subject to a legislator, very oftentimes you're not going to be noticed at all.
You said 1 or 2 sentence. You mean 1 or 2 page, or just
1 or
a couple
2 sentence, just 1 or 2 sentence. If you agree or disagree on a bill that's before the legislature, or you have an idea, just write the legislator, tell them that you're for this bill or against this bill, and in 1 or 2 sentences tell them why.
And that makes a difference?
Makes all the difference in the world. I can tell you, Fred, on the wetlands bill, for example, probably one of the most crucial pieces of legislation for hunters and fishermen and for people concerned about the environment. I know that over the course of the last 2 years that wetlands bill was in hot debate, that there were less than 100 letters written, either favorable or unfavorable, on that wetlands bill. And the favorable ones had a tremendous impact.
So that's your message at the Small Game Hunters Workshop.
You betcha.
That'll be one reason you're there. People can talk with Bob Garner. We also have a couple conservation officers are going to be there talking about enforcing the laws which the legislature and the DNR writes, and one of them is Ed Ferguson, Regional Law Supervisor. We're going to talk to him about the enforcement of these laws.
The information they need to comply with the statutes covering hunting are contained in the Hunting and Trapping Guide. And although it may not contain 100% of what they need, on the back are listed the telephone numbers of all of the DNR regional and district offices, and for informational purposes they can call the office closest to them to get any questions that are unanswered or perhaps vague in their minds with reference to reading the guide.
So you do admit that there are a few regulations that might be a little vague.
Or complicated.
Or confusing.
Or confusing, or perhaps just occupying more space than there's available, or practically available in a guide this size.
Okay, Fred.
And particularly regulations, I guess, that would pertain to a certain specialized sport. Duck hunting in a managed unit, put and take pheasant hunting, turkey hunting in the spring, as an example.
Well, what about pheasant hunting and shooting hours? That's changed
That's
this
a
year.
major change in pheasant hunting this year. Pheasant hunting in Zone 3, which is the southern...
There are no
half
better
of the
people to
Lower
ask about the
Peninsula.
game laws, new and old, than the people who enforce them. Conservation officers Ed Ferguson and Wayne Blanchard will be at the workshop to answer questions. There will be experts from the major sportsmen's clubs and associations relating to small game hunting, and a number of DNR wildlife biologists will be there to answer questions about populations, biology, management, and DNR plans for the future. You know, nearly all hunters value the game they bring home as food, and MSU Extension Specialist Cal Flegel will teach us some surprising things about the field care of
I'm
game.
going to tell these people that they should handle fresh shot game just as we did
the poultry industry 40 years ago, before we had the efficient refrigeration and fast transportation techniques that we have today. The thing that one should do immediately upon retrieving the bird, if it's already dead, they should not do anything to it other than hang it on their belt.
Well, what about the game pouch?
Well, that's something nice for in the winter, but during game pheasant season, it generally can be quite warm, and you've actually got yourself a small oven there, and I just would not use it. What you should do is go back to your car about every hour or so, and you should have yourself some nice cool beverage there and something for your dog, and put your bird intact with feathers on, viscera inside, untouched, on the ice, and leave them there. Because if you open that bird in the field, as you well know, we don't have very good conditions in the field, you will open that bird up for good bacterial invasion. And as long as you
what
don't...
What does that do? What does that bacteria do?
It'll change the taste, and it can actually spoil the bird.
Huh.
And if you leave it intact, the bacteria don't have a chance to get in, and therefore you will retain the good taste that is in a fresh shot pheasant.
I'll be darned. This is contrary to what most hunters have believed, what I grew up believing. What, does this apply to ducks and grouse and rabbits?
I would handle all small game that way, but as you're well aware too, when most people are hunting rabbits, it's much cooler, so you don't run the risk that we do in these temperatures when it's 70 and 80, 90 degrees. It's perfect for bacterial growth and invasion.
Well, what should you do with the pheasant? Should you pluck it, skin it?
Okay, my recommendation is this. To get the best tasting wild pheasant or grouse or woodcock, they should not be skinned. I realize that's much easier to do, but we're going to show them in the school how to pluck the birds, the right temperatures, and because if you take the skin off, there goes the fat cover, much of the flavor, and also it's very, very easy to dry the bird out when the skin is taken off during cooking.
So the fat in birds is not as distasteful as it is, say, in deer?
Oh, no, no, no. That's where most of the flavor actually is.
Ah. Learn something every minute with you,
Very
Cal.
good. Real
This
good.
is super. Well, this is going to be great in the workshop. Now, I did a recipe with Kay Ritchie. We're going to show you this in just a moment with a pheasant. And I said in that, while we were cutting it up, I said, I'd like to cut a little more fat off because, you know, this might be the bad flavor. And I was wrong.
In my opinion, yes, that's right.
Okay, well, that may be the only wrong thing we did in this recipe coming up right now. So let's go up to Ludington with Kay Ritchie and this recipe for stuffed pheasant. Once again, Michigan Outdoors is in the kitchen with my favorite wildlife chef, Kay Ritchie. Kay, you're gorgeous as usual.
Well,
Your book is full of scrumptious recipes, which you always have something good to illustrate. What are we going to cook today?
We're going to stuff a pheasant.
Hey, that sounds like fun. How do you do it?
Well, we're going to make a wild rice dressing, put it in the bird.
Okay, and of course to have a bird that's ready for this, it has to be whole, and you like them with the skin on.
Right.
Plucked. How come?
Plucked.
Most people skin them.
I think that a nice roasting bird roasts up much nicer with the skin on. If you have a real badly shot up bird, then skin it and use just the breasts and use the rest of it for soup stock.
I see some little bits of fat in here. You don't mind if I cut that out, do you?
No, you can get that right out of there.
Fat, sort of fat on salmon or fat on deer. Fat on most wild game is the part that tastes gamey. But you say the skin makes it taste better?
I think it does. And it really makes a nicer table product also to have the skin left on.
Okay.
Don't cut my skin down here, though. That's what's going to hold our stuffing
Oh,
in.
excuse me. Didn't mean to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I've never stuffed a bird this way before, so this will be interesting. Now, to prepare the stuffing, what did you do? You have some of it already made.
We sauteed onions and celery in butter, and we added a can of cream of chicken soup.
Okay, did you add any milk with that?
No, but we're going to add a little bit of water.
Okay. Is the stove on? Are we cooking?
No, we're not going to cook now. We're just going to put it together.
Oh, okay.
We've already sauteed this.
So there's a can of cream of chicken soup. How many onions?
I would say that there's probably about a quarter of a cup of onion and a half a cup of celery with the leaves.
Okay. Quarter cup and a half a cup. A little bit of water. Now what?
Okay, now we're going to add the wild rice. We've already prepared this. It's all done.
Is this come from a box?
Yeah, this is just
Somebody's uncle?
that's who it is.
So we have how much is that? A couple cups?
Yeah, I think that it's probably at least 2 cups. Maybe it's even more than that. I don't really know.
Now, there's plenty of wild rice right there. Is that it? No seasonings? Or?
No. Our seasoning is already in our herb dressing here, our stuffing, and we're going to now add that, and then we're going to...
Seasoned stuffing. This is about 8 ounces. How much do we put in there?
We're going to put the whole thing in, Fred. We're going to have lots of dressing.
Are you ready? There it goes.
Okay.
Herb seasoned stuffing, steamed chicken soup, quarter cup of onions, half a cup of celery with the leaves chopped up, a little bit of water, saute the onions and celery, stir it up. Okay, is that about...
That's about all there is to it. Just make sure that you have enough butter to saute, that you're going to have plenty of moisture, and
Okay,
we're going
now,
to have a little bit
How about the
more
bird here? Do we salt and pepper it on the inside?
Yeah,
or-
let's salt it quite heavily.
Quite heavily. Okay, I think we
Yeah,
can take
get it
care of
right
that.
down there in the cavity, good.
All right. Right down in there. Tell me when to stop.
Well,
Hope I
don't
haven't overdone
overdo it.
Okay, there we go. Heavily salted in the cavity of the pheasant. Now we're going to stuff the bird.
Now we're going to do it.
How do you go about this? Should I just hold it like a bag here and you dump it in?
Yep, that'll be real good. This is a 2-man job.
Or a one man, one woman job.
Okay.
I think we work real well together in the kitchen, Kay.
Well, we'll see what the finished product's like, Fred.
And you just literally stuff it in there.
There's
Look-
going to be a lot of extra dressing. And what we're going to do is we're going to lay the bird right in on top of this dressing.
Oh, I see.
And then we're going to stick it in the oven, and we're going to cook it for about an hour at 350 degrees.
Okay. How much more?
I think that's going to be about do it. Okay.
Now what?
Now we're going to lay the bird down here.
And we're going to put it in this pot with this stuffing.
Yeah, you
me
can
to sort of
spread
spread it
that
around?
right, and we're going to put the legs back down underneath here.
Oh, I see how you do that.
The skin has been left there for stuffing.
Oh, I thought you were going to have to sew it up. Hold on, let me try that
Yeah.
again. You have that flap of skin
A flap of skin.
right over there,
And we're just going to put the
Legs
legs
right
right
through.
in there.
right through
almost.
there. Hey,
There we go.
that's a snazzy way of doing it.
All right. Now let's just turn these wings back. We've cut the tips off the wings. It was kind of hard to...
Set it right in there.
Okay.
Now, Dutcher, we put the lid on?
All right, let's salt the top of it and stick it in the oven.
Okay, preheated at 350 degrees. How's that? Enough salt?
Yeah, fine.
Good.
Very good.
There it is. There's the pheasant.
Okay. I've got real bad icky hands.
Okay, well, I'll put it in the oven. Nice and warm in there. How long are we going to leave it?
About an hour.
About
and
an
we'll
hour.
check it.
I'll tell you what, through the magic of television, we're going to compress time, and we'll be back in about a minute and a half after Ed Groves gives us our outdoor calendar. And here it is, your stuffed pheasant.
Right.
Okay, Richie. And this has been in the oven for, what, an hour?
Approximately an hour, Fred. The way that I test for doneness is I pierce the breast, and then I push, and the juices that come out as you press should just slightly be pink.
That indicates what? That it's...
That indicates that it's just about done perfect.
Oh, okay. How about slicing into it? I can't wait to taste it.
All right.
Recipe for stuffed pheasant. Wow. Of course, Kay, you're going to be at the Small Game Hunters Clinic coming up September 11th in Okemos. About cutting a piece off, and you're going to be illustrating all kinds of things there, showing people not only how to cook recipes for pheasant, but pluck them, plucking ducks, and all that type of thing.
Yes, I like to do all my own games, so I'm...
Great.
How about a little taste of the wild rice dressing with it?
Boy, is that scrumptious. That is great, but that meat is just done to perfection. Boy, I could sit here and eat this all day. And the stuffing, well, I'll taste a little bit of it.
Tastes good?
Another winner of a recipe from Kay Ritchie.
Oh, thank you,
And
Fred.
Kay, thank you very much, and we hope that everybody can come and see you at the Small Game Hunters Clinic.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay, you're going to learn all about preparing wild game right then. And of course, if you would like a copy of this recipe, well, Glenn, we have an awful lot of people that are going to participate in this clinic. A lot of presenters. In fact, we have a guy from Winchester, Sandy Wood, who's coming all the way from Connecticut to talk about guns and chokes and loads. Another way of hunting small game, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is archery. Bow hunting. I know you're quite a wing shot with the bow.
Would like to be.
Well, like Ron LeClaire right there, he can take them right out of the air. He's going to be doing a demonstration. We're going to have people who use slingshots, muzzle loaders, and of course, survival is an important thing. Eric Olson is going to teach you, if you bring your bathing suit, how you can survive in the water if you fall in with your snowmobile suit and waders on. So call for reservations. If we do, well, I don't know what we're going to do about overflow crowd. We might have to turn people away, so be sure if you're interested to get your reservations in. It's going to be a heck of a workshop, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to it, even though I'll be participating, being on some of the other tests.
From the rugged shore and woodlands of the north, its history of copper mines and iron ore, the Great Lakes fisheries. To the farmlands of the southern counties we'll look around again, and all that waits the sportsman in the state of Michigan. And sometimes when the moon brings out the diamonds in the snow, and the stillness of the forest lies encased in Arctic cold, the wind might whisper through the trees, listen if you can, it tells you of the beauty in the state of Michigan.